Testing, one. Testing, 1, 2. Is it on? Testing. Testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. All right. I'll check with my tech crew. There's a lot of noise. I mean, it should work now, right? Can you hear? It is working?
Yeah.
It is?
Yeah.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, Father Chris says it's on, but there's too much talking. Nice to hear a lot of talking, a lot of happy people. Thank you for coming. Just some housekeeping. We have a handout tonight with 3 pages. If you didn't get one tonight, we'll have these tonight's tomorrow, as well as tomorrow's. There's going to be a handout each night. On this handout, there are 3 pages. One page is a list of quotes that we're going to use in today's talk. Another page is a response sheet. I always like to get feedback from my audiences, and you can grade my performance on the various components of tonight's talk, and you'll notice that the lowest grade you can give me is fair. Okay. My mother doesn't like low grades. The third sheet is the words to Mary Did You Know. We're going to sing that at the end of each session, tonight, tomorrow night, and Tuesday night. So if you could bring that one back, and if you do the response sheet, that's voluntary. You don't have to do anything with the response sheet, but I do like to get feedback. And you can either turn it in tonight here, up front in one of the front pews, or you could return it to where the books are being sold in the back. You could bring it back tomorrow if you want. You could mail it to me if you want to think about it. Sometimes people like write a little note. My address is on the bottom if you want to send it to me. So that's voluntary. That's the response sheet. I have some stuff for sale in the back. I think so. Is my mic on? Father said it's on loud.
He did.
He did, yes. So.
They might need to move up.
Yeah. If you can't hear in the back, I'll talk loud, but there are a few seats up in the front. Whatever. Read my lips. No. There's a table outside with some books for sale. My book, Simple Happiness, is for sale. We take checks and cash. This is $15. If you buy 2, it's $25 for the 2. If you buy 3, it's $30. So if you buy 3 or more, it's $10 a book. Then I have 2 of these little aha moments books. Every Wednesday, I send out an aha moment, a little uplifting thought, something positive to help you get through the week. This has 100, the first 100 in it. The red one has the second 100 in it. I've also, on the response sheet, I forgot to say, if you want to be on my email list to receive these aha moments, and I also have a God-centered aha moment on Friday. So if you want, please write neatly, because some people, I can't read their handwriting. When they write their email address, you tend to write it quickly because you say it quick. Write it neatly so I can transcribe it onto the computer. So understand that. Also, I have my book, me reading the book on 3 CD. It's a 3 CD set of me reading the book. That's out there too, if you have a CD player. I also have my course that I teach at the jail. It's on a DVD or a CD. So they're labeled, so some people get one and they play it and there's nothing on it because it's the wrong one. So be sure if you're interested in that. That's $49. There's 6 discs in each package. The stuff is going to be here tomorrow night as well as Tuesday night. And if you want something but don't have the money, take it. You can take a business card and you can send me a check. And if I don't get the check, that just means you need the book more than I need the money. So don't feel bad. It's not a big deal. Well, I think that's it. The response sheets, you can bring them up here and put them in one of the first pew or the back at the book sales. We're going to start off with a song. We're going to start off with number 572 in the music issue, You Are Near. I picked this song, number one, because I like it. Number two, it exemplifies the theme of what we're going to be talking about for these 3 nights. The presence of God is always with us. You are near. So we're going to sing the first 2 verses, please. Oh Lord, I know you are near, standing always at my side. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. Lord, you have searched my heart, and you know when I sit and when I stand. Your hand is upon me, protecting me from death, keeping me from harm. Oh Lord, I know you are near, standing always at my side. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. Where can I run from your love? If I climb to the heavens, you are there. If I fly to the sunrise or sail beyond the sea, still I'd find you there. Oh Lord, I know you are near, standing always at my side. You guard me from the foe, and you lead me in ways everlasting. That was beautiful. Every Mass, I really appreciated the singing. It's great, and it shows again tonight. All right, well, we're going to start off tonight, as we are going to do each night. Somebody put a guitar stand here. I appreciate that. More secure. We're going to take a minute. You can leave your eyes open. You can close them. And what we're going to do is we're going to bask in God's presence. Just sit here and feel that love. Feel the presence shining on you as an individual. Let's do that for a minute. You can leave your eyes open. You can close them. Let's bask in the presence of God. Okay, let's come back. How did that feel? It's consoling, it's encouraging, it's Lent, and during Lent we're supposed to be doing something to prepare ourselves for Lent, whether it's fasting, abstinence, or almsgiving. Praying is a big part of it, and this is a prayer. And you could do it first thing in the morning, you could do it anytime during the day. And the thing it serves to do is be in that presence of God more and more often. And the more often we experience that presence of God, the more often we can live in God's presence. So we're going to talk tonight about what are happy people. We're going to talk about 8 characteristics of happy people. Again, all in the context of letting God's grace flow into my life. When I'm feeling good, when I'm happy, things don't bother me. I let things go. I'm not so picky. But when we're upset, when we're having a bad day, then, we're not letting God's grace flow into our lives. So the first characteristic of happy people is happy people have the intention to be happy. They want to be happy. Happy people understand it's not the circumstances of my life that make all the difference, but rather how I deal with those circumstances. Certainly, if something breaks my way, I'm going to feel good. If something doesn't break my way, I may not feel so good. I'm not talking about the daily vagaries and the ups and downs of life. I'm talking about our overall happiness quotient, our overall well-being. And the more we can have that sense of well-being, the easier it is for God's grace to flow into our lives. When we're stressed out, when we're worried, not so easy. And the quote here is from Viktor Frankl. You know Viktor Frankl? He was an Austrian psychiatrist who got locked up in the Nazi concentration camps. He survived that experience, and when he got out, he wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And in that book, he said, everything can be taken away from a person but one thing, the last of human freedoms, the ability to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's way. Now, what's the main word in that quote? Choose. We are choosing how to respond to everything that comes our way. So the idea is to pay attention to how we're feeling as the result of the choice we've made. And we can make a choice that we've always made, or we could try to make a choice that shows that we're feeling God's grace. Everything is a choice. All our responses are choices. We're in charge of our lives. Not the circumstance, but it's how we deal with those circumstances. The second characteristic of happy people is happy people are accountable for their own happiness. What's another word for accountability? Responsibility. Happy people know that their happiness is their business. They're not waiting for someone else to make them happy. There's no blame game. Happy people don't blame anybody for their lot. You're never going to hear a happy person say, well, what do you want? I was the oldest of 6 kids. I had to do everything. I never had a chance to develop any interest. Or you're never going to hear a happy person say, hey, what do you want? I was the youngest of 6 kids. I had everything done for me. How do you expect me to be a capable person? Never going to hear a happy person blame their alcoholic father or their distant mother. These things happen. Those are circumstances that we live through. But a happy person is not going to blame somebody for their lot. I am the person that I am standing here today. It's the result of every choice I've ever made in my life. And the people that you are. It's the result of every choice you've ever made in your lives. Oh, come on, Jim. What about this? What about, come on. We want to take responsibility for the good things, but we want to lay off the not so good things on somebody else. It's normal. It's human. And that's what we're working on this week is our human side, because some of these things that keep God's grace from flowing into my life. Blaming somebody else is not going to let God's grace flow into my life. We have the sacrament of penance. We've made mistakes. We've committed sins, big ones, little ones. We take responsibility. All of a sudden, that's the first step in moving forward. Blaming somebody else just keeps us where we are. It's not a productive idea. Who here has never been sick? Who's never been sick? Who's never gotten better? Don't get me wrong, there are certain things that people don't recover from, and I'm not trying to minimize that at all. But we've gotten sick. We've gotten the flu or an allergy attack or a sore back. We've gotten better. So we can start to use these characteristics in our daily life tonight. Because if you got a stiff neck, it's uncomfortable. And that's a circumstance. You have a choice of how to deal with that stiff neck. You trip and you fall and you skin your knee. Let's say when you were a little kid, you fell down and skinned your knee or you skinned your elbow. What did the nun or what did your mother say to you when you came in crying? Offer it up. It's still a viable prayer. We can still do that. I was at a retreat over in North Carolina last week, and I asked the same question. And some wise guy said, what did the nun say when you fell and skinned your knee? He said, suck it up, buttercup. We don't have to be. I said, well, that's what the football coach might say. But we could offer it up. All of a sudden, this hurt is a blessing. We can offer it up. And that's that God-centered thinking, God's grace coming into my life, triggering my thought. Yeah, at first we moan and groan and we complain and we cry or we hurt. But then you get to the point where I'm going to offer this up. And all of a sudden it's a prayer. Simple things we're going to talk about this week that we can do to make our lives closer to God, to bring God's grace into my life. Helen Keller, you know Helen Keller? Talk about obstacles to being happy. She said self-pity is our worst enemy, and if we yield to it, we can never do anything wise in this world. Self-pity. Again, this is something that happens to us. We feel bad when we get the flu or an allergy attack. We have a choice. We get on the phone and we talk to our friend about how bad we feel, how we couldn't sleep at all last night, how we're coughing or sneezing. It's a circumstance. Not easy. A lot of the stuff I talk about is simple, but not so easy because we're used to responding in the way how we respond to these issues in our lives. So we got to notice, first of all, you notice the malady and you offer it up to God because you're going to get better. We've all gotten better. So what's your focus when you're sick? It could be on how bad you feel or it could be on your healing. Everybody said we've healed. Let's say you get a sore throat this afternoon. You can't see the doctor until Thursday. What often happens between now and Thursday? You feel better. Number one, it could have run its course, which happens. We've got these antibodies. God has given us these miracles of a body. Or the other thing that's possible is you're going to see the doctor. She's going to diagnose the malady. She's going to give you some medication, and you're going to get better. So we know it's going to get better. So why do we suffer over here when we could be focusing on our healing? Because it always happens. It always happens. Little things. And that's God's grace giving us this body that heals itself. And there's another prayer of just accepting that grace. Self-pity is our worst enemy. And if we yield to it, we can never do anything wise in this world. These things happen. We feel sorry for ourselves. You're not going to stop that emotion. It just comes upon you. But you don't have to live with that negative emotion. You could accept it and focus on your healing. Thank God I can heal. The third characteristic of happy people is happy people know what makes them happy and they find time to pursue those interests. Who has a hobby that they love to do and when they're involved in it, time just flies by? Raise your hand. Yes, sir. What do you like to do?
I like to help people fix stuff.
Help people fix stuff. Who else had their hand up? Yes, ma'am. Pickleball. There you go. Hey, yes, sir. Writing in a journal. Anybody else have something they love to do? Yes, ma'am. Crochet. Cooking. Okay, we've had 5 responses. This is a typical response that I get when I ask this question. Number 1, the people who raise their hand to share, a smile comes to their face. They can't help but feel the joy that they're involved when they're involved in this activity. Number 2, the second thing I noticed, we had 5 people, 5 different answers. And that's the way it should be because we're all individuals. And you know what the third thing I always notice is? A lot of people didn't raise their hand. It could just be, I don't feel like raising my hand. And that's true. I'm sure we all have things we love to do. And this is the thing. It brings us happiness. It brings us joy when we're involved in that, whether it's helping, cooking, crocheting, pickleball, and there was one other that I can't remember. Writing in a journal. Yes, thank you. So, and God gives us these abilities. God gives us these talents to give glory to God. And if we could kind of remember that when we're involved in that activity, this is a gift. It's a gift to be able to help people. It's a gift to play pickleball. It's a gift that we've received from God to make our lives full and give glory to God by remembering that as when we're involved in it. Because so often we get, like I said this morning and yesterday, we get so caught up in the day-to-day, we kind of lose track of everything. So this Lent, the idea is to start to live in God's presence in everything that we do. Good things, bad things, we're living in God's presence. We do something good, we give thanks. We do something not so good, we ask forgiveness. But it's that Christ consciousness, that God consciousness that changes everything. You know, I give talks in the secular world as well. Yeah, and I'll be talking to a company meeting, and almost all the time when I ask the people who work there, I say, what do you like about working in this place? What do you think they say? The people. And guess what? If you're working in that place, you're the people. So you have an opportunity to make it a happy place, to make it a Christ-like loving place. What you bring is as important as anybody else brings to that situation. The power that God has given us to do good, to lift people up. What does it cost? Oh, how do you feel when you give a compliment? How do you feel when you give somebody a compliment? You feel good. How do you feel when somebody gives you a compliment? Good. Yeah. What does it cost to give a compliment? How much? Nothing. And some people are very ready to give compliments. And some people have a hard time giving a compliment. I know that. You know, they just can't get themselves to say you did something well, a nice job. So my thought is, for this Lent, if you, again, everybody is different, but if you're one of the ones that has a hard time with the compliments, decide tomorrow, today I'm going to give somebody, one person at least, a compliment. Just do it. One person, and see how you feel. We have tremendous potential to live that life that Christ calls us to live. You know, lift people up versus not. And the quote here is from Rita Mae Brown. She's a contemporary author. She said, I finally figured it out. The only reason to be alive is to enjoy it. So pay attention. How are you feeling during the day? Are you lifting people up and feeling good, or are you not? You know, we always, a lot of the times it's within our own family that we have the hardest time, because these are the people closest to us. And sometimes it's hard to give a compliment to our family. It's just, you know, it's an intention. What kind of a life do you want for yourself? That's the question I always ask the guys and gals at the jail and in the halfway house. I finally figured it out. The only reason to be alive is to enjoy it. And God wants us to be joyful people. He wants us to be happy. He wants us to spread His love. And we've got that power. We've got that ability. And the fourth characteristic of happy people, some happy people follow their bliss. What's bliss? It's happiness, but it's like the ultimate happiness. I can't believe how good I felt. It was a blissful experience. Now tell me, why do people not follow their bliss? Why do people stay in their comfort zone? What do you think? They're scared. They're scared of their fear. What are people afraid of? Failure, rejection, the unknown, success. People find out you're good at something, the phone won't stop ringing. Leave me alone. That happens. I asked the people, the guys in the jail, you know, why don't people follow their bliss? One guy raised his hand and says, they're lazy. A lot of times it's easier to do nothing than to do something. That applies to nobody here tonight. You've all made the effort to come out at 7 o'clock on a Sunday night and participate in the Lenten mission, so that applies to nobody. There used to be, I complimented everybody at the Masses for coming and the good attendance. In my parish, there was a priest a long time ago. I was a kid. I didn't even notice it, but my father noticed it. He would complain about the people who weren't there. What? He did not have, well, whatever. We survived. We survived. So the fourth characteristic is happy people. Some happy people follow their bliss. They step out of their comfort zone. They feel the fear and do it anyway. See, it's so easy to stay in your comfort zone because you're comfortable. We like to be comfortable, no question. But when you step out of your comfort zone, you never know what's going to happen. That's my story. 20 years ago, I went to that jail. I had no idea what to expect. No idea. Here I am. And I was a teacher at that time. And so I would get my yellow pad and I would do the notes of what I was going to talk about. I had like page and page of notes. Gradually, I got to the point where I could teach without the notes. But I stepped out of that comfort zone, and my life has never been the same. I would never be here talking to you folks if I hadn't gone to that jail. Because I very easily could have said, it's a 45-minute drive. I got my family. I got my business to run. Let somebody else do it. But for some reason, God tapped me on the shoulder, and it happened. I owe a big debt of gratitude to a friend of mine. He's in the acknowledgments of my book. His name is Dan Murphy. We sang, in those days they call it the folk group. We sang at the folk group at the family mass at 9:30. And I had taught religious ed with this Dan Murphy a couple of years prior to the public school kids. And we got along. And he was in the folk group. He could not sing. He was a horrible guitar player. But we couldn't kick him out of the group because he was such a nice guy. Anyway, I respected him. He was an older gentleman. I respected him. There was and when I was in the Irish Christian Brothers. When I graduated from high school, I was taught by the Irish Christian Brothers in upstate New York, in Schenectady at Bishop Gibbets High School. I was inspired by the brothers, and I joined the congregation. I went through training period for 4 years and taught for 2 years in a Catholic school up in Boston. But during our second year, we were stationed in Lakewood, New Jersey, and the head brother would put us on a bus and take us to a nursing home. And I played the guitar, so I would bring my guitar and I would sing songs to the old folks, and they liked it. And I had a lot of pleasure entertaining. So when I left the brothers, I continued doing that on Long Island. I would volunteer at various nursing homes and play and sing, and the people liked it. And I liked it. So there was an anniversary dinner at our parish, 50th anniversary, 75th anniversary, I'm not sure what. But Dan was at one table, and I was at another table with my friends. And I went over to Dan, and I tapped him on the shoulder, and I said, Dan, I finally figured out what I'm going to commit myself to. I'm going to really do this volunteer work for the nursing homes. He knew I was doing that. And he looked at me, he shook his head and said, there's more. There's more for you. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that was the impetus. He taught a Bible study class at the jail. So he suggested I go to, talk to the head, Brother Jack, who was in charge of the prison ministry for the diocese. And that got me started. So I owe an incredible debt of gratitude to Dan Murphy. And if we have someone in our life who pushes us, who sees more in us than we see in ourselves, it's a powerful relationship. It could make all the difference in my life, in your life. So hopefully, we have somebody like that in our lives, or maybe you could be that person in somebody's life. Because so often people stay where they are, and then they live a life of regret, and they get older. What do people regret when they get older? Do they regret what they did or what they didn't do? Some people regret what they did, don't you? No question. But a lot of people say, gee, I wonder what would have happened if. I wonder what would have happened if I signed up for this. And there's such benefit in volunteering. This parish is a wonderful parish. I've heard so many stories about people helping people and support and love, and it's great. It's really great. So I encourage people to volunteer. Help people without being paid. Quickly, anybody here volunteer? What do you do, ma'am?
I help with Respect Life, and I'm a Eucharistic minister.
Respect Life, Eucharistic minister. Now,
Eucharistic minister. I work with clients.
St. Vincent de Paul. Anybody else? Legion of Mary. All right. What do you do with the check that you get at the end of the week? Don't be nasty. Father takes the check. That was her answer. Not Father Chris. Maggie takes the check. Okay, that's different. See, you just feel good, and that, again, that lets God's grace flow into our lives. And remember the parable of the talents? Remember the landowner went away for a period of time, and he called some of his servants in, and to one he gave 5 talents, to one he gave 2 talents, to one he gave 1 talent. He went away and came back, and then he called them in for a reckoning of what they had done. And the person that had the 5 talents, he said, "Master, behold, you gave me," these may not be verbatim, but "you gave me 5 talents. Behold, I have made 5 more." And the master said, "Well done, good and faithful servant. Come celebrate with me." And then what about the guy that had the 2 talents? He said, "Master, you gave me 2 talents. Behold, I have made 2 more. Well done, good and faithful servant. Come and celebrate with me." And the person who had 1 talent came up, head down, and said, "Master, I knew you were a severe person. I was afraid I would lose it, so I buried it." And what was his reward? Beat it. Get out. We don't need you. There's always lessons in these parables. Jesus really spoke to us in these parables. I mean, there's a couple of things that I get from this parable. Number one, it looks like the person that had the 5 talents got the same reward as the person who got the 2 talents. Come and celebrate with me. God knows that we've all different talented. Some of us have a lot of talent. Some of us have a little talent. But we all have gifts. We all have talents. So the question is, what are you doing with the gifts that God gave you? Because when we pass away and meet our Maker, that's one of the questions that God is going to ask us. What did you do with the gifts that I gave you? Hope you have a good answer. I'm sure everybody here will have a good answer. I mean, one of the questions that God is not going to ask you is, how many square feet was your house? What kind of car did you drive? Where did you go on vacation? No, not that those are bad things. Have a nice house, go on vacation. Those are nice things, but that's not what we live for. That's not what God wants us to be, focused on. He wants us to be focused on loving our brother. So, Lent is a time to examine our conscience, to take stock of how we're doing, honestly, not in a negative way, because we're looking to grow in God's love and His presence. One of the chapters in my book is be the compassionate observer of yourself. So often we're compassionate to other people, but we beat ourselves up because we're not doing what we think we could do. Got to relax. As long as we're working in that direction, growing in God's love, we're in good shape. So what are you doing with the gifts that I gave you? And a lot of people, okay, you say, well, I don't know what to do. I mean, you could do something as simple as, and this was somebody suggested this from another retreat that I gave a couple weeks ago. He says, I go to the nursing home, and I go to the desk, and I ask the person at the desk, what person doesn't get any visitors? So they tell me, and then I go down to that room, and I'll sit for 10 or 15 minutes, hold his hand, hold her hand, just talk quietly, ask questions if the person can communicate. Wow, what a blessing. What a blessing. I mean, that's not for everybody. Don't get me wrong. Some people, it's not for everybody, but it's something that a lot of us could do without a big stretch. And you never know what's going to happen. See, the beauty about volunteering is you never know who you're going to meet. Somebody may see you working as a volunteer here and there, and they may invite you to do something else. And you never know where that door is going to lead. Or you may inspire somebody else. Somebody sees you, maybe they're going to visit their mother, and you're going, and they see you, and you tell them what you're doing. You say, wow, I could do that too. I'm here seeing my mother. I could take 10 minutes and see somebody who doesn't get. See, there's so much we can do if we say yes to opportunities and let God's grace flow into our lives. We live in that presence. See, if we could, work on that presence, all of a sudden, our choices start to work in our favor. We start to feel God's love. And when we start to feel God's love, everything changes. Nothing changes on the external side, but everything changes because we're living in that presence. When you follow your bliss, this is the quote from Joseph Campbell, if you follow your bliss, doors will open that you didn't even know existed. It's a secular quote, But Joseph Campbell, by the way, I was watching a PBS show on a rainy Saturday years ago, and Joseph Campbell, who is a genius, he's written 30-some books about religion and mythology. He was being interviewed by Bill Moyers, who was no slouch at that time. And they were talking about religion and mythology, and it was going over my head. I had no idea really what they were talking about, but I felt I should hang in there. And all of a sudden, Joseph Campbell said, when you follow your bliss, doors will open that you didn't even know existed. I went to that jail. I had no idea what doors were going to open. No idea. But I did it. And so it's an invitation and a challenge to you all to do this, to do something. But it's got to be something that you feel good about. You know, if the nursing home thing really is not for you, don't do it. You know? And you can try things. It doesn't have to be your life's work just because you try something. Doesn't work? Try something else. And the fifth characteristic of happy people is happy people are able to recast mournful events. Now, this is a tough one. It could be the loss of a loved one, could be a dread illness, it could be a disability. And I'm not saying happy people are cavalier. Oh, I got to move on, I got to make the best of it. No, they mourn, they cry, they grieve, but they get to the point where they say, now what? How can I give honor to the situation that I find myself in? Not easy stuff. But through time, loving support and care from friends and relatives, church members, people get to that point. Some people. I'm not criticizing anybody who hasn't gotten to that point, but because it's not easy. But we could be that person to help a person get to that point. Not through, telling them how to think, but just giving them love and support and prayer. And it doesn't have to be something terrible. The quote here is from Albert Einstein. He said, in the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Anybody at St. Cletus ever have a problem? Duh. Problems are part of life. Do we like problems? No. When we have a problem, we hunker down, we get defensive, we wish it would go away. But we look up, he still lives next door to me. In the middle of difficulty lies opportunity. Okay, difficulty, problem, we're hunkered down, we get defensive, we wish it would go away. Do we like opportunities? Yeah, our mind expands in every direction to try to figure out how to take advantage of an opportunity. What a difference in our mind. And what is a problem, really, if we look at it? A problem is a circumstance. It's a circumstance that we're confronted with. Circumstance that we're not happy about, but it's a circumstance. Really, that's all it is. And we have a saying in our language. When I say the first two words, you'll know the rest. Every cloud has a silver lining. Doesn't say her clouds have a silver lining. Some clouds have, no, every cloud has a silver lining. So the cloud is the problem. The silver lining is the opportunity. And what is the opportunity in every problem? There's always an opportunity. Not easy to find it sometimes. But it's always the opportunity to grow in God's love, to grow in forgiveness, to grow in compassion, to grow in understanding. Are these bad qualities to grow in? No, we look up to people who exemplify these qualities, and they could be ours too. So it's just a question of how am I dealing with this circumstance? And we've all got issues, no question about it. Life does not just, it's not a bowl of cherries every day. There's issues that come up. And it's how we respond to that problem. First of all, you got to notice that it's a problem versus just, let it come flying at you and deal with it the way you've always dealt with it, maybe not too productively. But if you just see that problem as as a circumstance, then you can switch your consciousness to where's the opportunity? Where's the opportunity? Instead of moaning and groaning and complaining about the issue, look for the opportunity. Look for the opportunity to grow. And that's what Christ calls us to do, to grow in seeing things in a Christian way. And a lot of us have issues. You know, a lot of us have some kind of personal issue that we struggle with. Okay, we struggle. Whatever that might be, our pride, our quick temper, an addiction. You know, we all have something that we deal with. And a lot of us, you know, like St. Paul. St. Paul, when he was, you know, after he was converted, he had this issue that I don't think was ever explained in the scriptures, but he asked God if God would relieve him of this problem. Let this problem be gone. And what did Jesus say? What did God say to St. Paul? My grace is sufficient for you. See, we have this issue, whatever it might be, we're not going to get rid of it. Embrace it. See it as a gift from God that you could grow in his love, that you could grow in kindness, understanding, forgiveness, whatever it is. So it's how we see things so often that make all the difference. And if we see it from the Christian perspective, all of a sudden, you know, the issue is still there, but it's not eating us alive. We're seeing it as an opportunity to grow in God's love, to be the person that I'm called to be. Not easy at all. Don't get me wrong. It's hard to change. It's very hard to change, but we can do it. And one thing we can do is we could pray about it. We could pray about it. We know who's going to press our buttons. We know when a situation is going to occur where we might not do something that we were called to do. People, places, circumstances. So be ready for that. There's another chapter in the book. Being prepared is half the battle. Why do we keep falling and getting angry at the same thing? Because we haven't learned to look at the opportunity and respond differently. So we pray. And you pray before you're in the circumstance, what they used to call the occasion of sin. Remember that term? The occasion of sin? Because that happens, you know, wherever your issue is, there are occasions that you're going to fall into that bad issue, habit, whatever it is. So pray when you're in, you know, when you're not in the throes of that issue. So we can be prepared and understand that God's grace is always there. So that if you're in God's presence all the time or as often as possible, you can call on that grace when you're in a tough situation. Not easy, but there's hope. We all can. And our prayers are answered. I mean, how many times in the Bible we're fighting against Satan all the time. It's not like, you know, because we want to do something, the field is clear. No. He's always tapping us on the shoulder. He's always talking in the other ear. Now, you don't have to do that. Why do you treat her that way? She's nasty to you. Why be nice to her? Or whatever it is. The devil is always at us. Always. Never ending. So don't think you're in the clear. You're not. And that devil is always knocking on your door to do the wrong thing. So we got to be aware of that, but understand also, how many times did Jesus cast out the demons? He did. He cast out the demons when people really asked, you know, fervently, repeatedly. Even though to St. Paul he said, my grace is sufficient for you, sometimes he'll answer that prayer. But it's the activity of understanding the issue and knowing that we can ask for help. Pray to the Blessed Virgin. The Rosary. The Rosary is a wonderful activity that if you don't say it daily, you could do it during Lent. Just make a decision to say the Rosary every morning or whenever during the day. It could be a habit. It could be a habit that carries through. See, another chapter in my book, are we really creatures of habit? And I think we are. I think we do so many things just because that's the way I've always done it. And Lent is a time where we could kind of refresh things and try something a little different. We're not, not asked to suffer like the saints have suffered or like Jesus has suffered. But we can do our part to make small steps. A saint wasn't built in a day. And we look at the lives of the saints, we see some pretty miserable people before they became saints. St. Monica prayed for her son, I think it was St. Augustine, for years and years and years. He was a no account. He was a derelict. But St. Monica, his mother, never gave up praying for her son. Turned out to be one of the most important saints. So wherever we're at, we're on our way to becoming a saint. So that's the fifth characteristic of happy people. Recasting. Problems, opportunities. God's grace is there. My grace is sufficient for you. Sufficient for everybody. And the sixth characteristic of happy people understand they have options in their life. Just because I've lived my life a certain way up until now does not necessarily mean that that's how I've got to live my life for the rest of my life. Sounds simple, right? Not so easy, because we've been doing what we've been doing our whole life. We've been responding to circumstances the way we've been responding our whole life. We've been thinking the way we've been thinking our whole life. We say things like, well, that's how I've always done it. That's who I am. We say these things. So that just shows how tough it is to make these changes. Tomorrow morning, I want you to pay attention. Some people wake up in the morning and they crawl out of bed, and they slump over and say, "Good God, morning." Some people wake up and say, "Good morning, God." Tomorrow morning, pay attention. Which one are you? No judgment, no criticism. I've been married to a woman for a long time who wakes up, "Good God, boy." But she's hanging on to me for a long time, so it's okay. So again, we are who we are personality-wise. Everybody can't be the same personality, but just notice how it is that you wake up, just to keep track. And sometimes the people who wake up slumped over, "Good God, morning," put on their blinders. You know what you put on a horse so they can only look straight ahead? If I could just get through this day, I don't want to cause any problems. I want to get home. I want to put on my jammies, have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, and go to bed. Next day, if I could just get through this day, I don't want to cause any problem. I want to get home. I want to put on my jammies, have a bite to eat, watch a little TV, go to bed. Next day, if I could just... What do we call that? Habit, a rut, Groundhog Day. And who's calling the shots? If that's your routine, who's calling the shots? The devil is not calling the shots. Nope. He's pushing you to act that way, but you're the one who's calling the shots. The devil has given you a lot of help in being negative and whatever. So pay attention, okay? And not to say that you can't have that kind of a day once in a while, okay? Because I know we have sometimes we got a lot going on. We're not feeling too hot. There's stress going this and that, and you just want to get through the day. That's fine. But if that's your normal routine, you're missing out. You're missing out on seeing the love that the opportunities that God has given you to spread the love. The quote here is from Ovid, Roman philosopher and poet. He says, "Chance is always powerful. Let your hook always be cast. In the pool where you least expect it, there will be fish." Kind of a dopey quote, but we know you can't catch fish unless your hook is in the water. So if you're walking around with your blinders on, you're missing out opportunities to let God's grace flow into your life. That's blocking out God's grace too. You're worried about me. It's all about me. Take the blinders off. I wake up in the morning, I say a couple of things. One thing I say is, I wonder what good is going to come my way today. Everybody say that. I wonder what good is going to come my way today. I'm looking for good things. Granted, when you're looking for good things, you're going to see some things that are not so good. That's a given. But that's the way life is. It's not all perfect and rosy. We have situations that are uncomfortable to experience. But why not start that way? I wonder what good is going to come my way today. The other thing I try to say is, I wonder whose life I can make a little bit better today. I wonder whose life I can make a little bit better. Maybe that's a compliment to somebody. Since I moved to Tennessee, nice people in Tennessee, and they see my hair. I don't think I've opened a door to a store or any since I've been there. Everybody runs to hold the door. It's wonderful. sir. Everybody calls me sir. That's not bad. But we could do the same. We could be the one holding the door. So that's number 6, options. We've got choices. And the 7th characteristic of happy people is happy people show appreciation. How do you feel when you're appreciating something? Great. Thanksgiving, we have a whole day dedicated to Thanksgiving. And in the Mass, it is truly right and just that we always give thanks. Okay, we say it in the Mass every day. Listen to that part of the Mass where it's incumbent upon us to give thanks every day. And here's appreciation. What's down here at the bottom? Let's say depreciation. Okay, could be a lot of negativity, a lot of things. And what's in the middle? When you're not appreciating and you're not depreciating. Apathy. I like to say taking for granted. Anybody at St. Cletus ever take anything for granted? We're all stars at taking things for granted. We do it all day long. We're not appreciating, we're not depreciating, we're just taking it for granted. I never heard anybody say, yeah, I'm taking that for granted. Makes no sense, but we do it all the time. Up in Long Island, we had Superstorm Sandy 7 or 8 years ago. Where the south shore of Long Island was just inundated with waves. Houses were knocked off. Cars were filled with sand. It was a mess. It was a disaster. I lived up on the North Shore. We didn't have flooding, but it got cold. We had no power for a week. I wasn't brave enough to take a cold shower, so I didn't shower for a week. It was pretty nasty. So finally, when the power finally came back on and I hit that switch and the lights came on, what did I do? Yeah, power! I cheered. I was so happy. Now, you go into a bathroom or another room and you turn the light on. Do you think of anything? See, now, I got to remind myself. And it takes effort to remind myself to be grateful for the power. Often I just take it for granted. Then I think about it later. We had no hot water. Now the hot water in the shower hits me in the morning. I give thanks for the hot water. I do. Then I get out of the shower, put on a terry robe to keep me warm. I give thanks for the terry robe. I walk down to my closet to put on some clothes to make me look good. Maybe not that good, but I'm grateful for what I've got. Not complaining about things. I'm giving thanks to God for all these gifts. We've got a lot of people here. If we polled everybody, what's your morning beverage? We'd have all different kinds of things. We'd have, Dunkin' Donuts, 8 o'clock, decaf, flavored coffee. We'd have mushroom coffee, which is a new one. We'd have green tea, black tea, herbal tea, Diet Coke, Pepsi, water, juice, a million different drinks. Tomorrow morning, when you have whatever it is that you have, whether you're in a hurry or not, no excuse if in your hurry, because you still got your mind. Give thanks for that gift that you've got to help you get going in the morning, whatever it is. I read a book by a Buddhist monk named Thich Nhat Hanh. He didn't write the book, but he would give lectures, and they would transcribe the lectures. And they would come in little booklets. And I read once, and I always remember, he said, when I sit down at a meal, I smile at my food. Things can be so rote, just by habit, we just do things because of a matter of course. So when we say grace, think about the grace. We're blessed. And think about when you're looking at, let's say, whatever it is, bacon and eggs and toast. How did those eggs get to here? Who had the chickens? How did they get them out of what truck took them? And I got the bacon. And all of these things that we just take for granted because they're in the store. Think about how they arrive in front of you to please you. And again, you give thanks for the wonders, the blessings that we have here in America. We take it for granted. We do. Things don't go wrong, things don't go right, we get upset. But when things are going right, don't take it for granted. Appreciate. That's a chapter in my book. And the quote here is from one of the Psalms. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. You ever hear that? It's a great thing to say in the morning when you wake up. This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Why not? Talking to a lady tonight. I said, how you doing? She said, I haven't heard this one very often. Dandy. It's good to be dandy. And I'm vertical. Yeah, God has given me another day to give glory to Him. Okay? And there was, appreciating is such a powerful, powerful tool. There was a retreat up on Long Island a couple of years ago, and a man came up at the end of the mission. He was well-dressed, looked like a businessman, and he said, you know what I do in the morning before I leave to go to work? He says, I look in the mirror, and I say to myself, today, I'm going to see the face of God in everyone that I meet. And I'm going to try to be the face of Jesus. Actually, he said Jesus instead of God. I'm going to try to be the face of Jesus to everyone that I meet. What a great way to start the day. That's a prayer right there. His intention. That's the first characteristic of happy people. He wants to be the face of Jesus. He wants to see the face of Jesus. And that's there for all of us. It's there for all of us. Each one of us. Smile. What does it cost to smile at somebody? That may be the nicest thing that person experiences all day. Lift people up. Say hi, how are you? You don't have to know them. Take them by. People are very friendly here, so it's kind of like done as a matter of course. People are friendly. That's wonderful. There was a woman who came up after one of the missions, and she was a younger mother, maybe 35, 36 years old, had a couple of preteen daughters, 10, 13, and she had her husband. They're married. And she said, when we sit down to have dinner together, which is not every night because of the girls' activities and my husband's schedule, but when we sit down for dinner, it's a wreck. The little one says something to her older sister, not in a friendly way, and the bigger sister picks back at the little one, and they go back and forth. And my husband says, what's going on? Will you stop? Let's just have... People can't wait to get away from the table. It's a miserable experience. Family dinner. So she said, I was unhappy with that whole situation. So she said, I made up my mind. And I told the family, I said, from now on, whenever we come down to have dinner together, we're going to say grace, and then we're going to go around the table. And each one of us is going to have to say one thing that happened during the day for which they are grateful. So now they go around the table. The little sister says what she's grateful for. The husband says what he's grateful for. The older sister and the mother. She said it's a totally different atmosphere at the table. You know, we're waiting to hear what happened during the day, why they're what are they grateful for? It could be something big. It could be something little. What a difference that's made. And all it takes is, I don't like this, let's do this. Try it. You may get some pushback. Yeah. Oh, come on, Mom, what are you kidding me? And the older sister had friends who wanted to come and eat at our house because she told them what we did, and they wanted to be part of that. So it's amazing what gratitude can do. You get excited about life. Everything changes when you live a life of gratitude in God's presence. Really, nothing changes, but everything changes because you're living a different life in God's presence. And the quote which I gave a minute ago, this is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. That was part of a psalm, and the psalms were written a long time ago. Notice the person who wrote the psalm did not say, this is the day the Lord has made, if I could just get through and not cause any problems. No. Totally different. So these are simple things that we can latch onto, especially during Lent, to try to come up with a new habit. Don't get rid of the old habits. They're there. That's okay. But just add something to your day here and there to bring that presence into your life so that when Easter comes, you've done something to make yourself better prepared to share that wonderful experience of the resurrection. No rote stuff. What else can you do during Lent to prepare yourself for Easter? Anybody? Simple things that you could do. You could go to confession. You could go to the Stations of the Cross. You could say the rosary every day. And you could do it, you could bask in God's presence every day too. That's a simple thing. I'm going to ask you tomorrow, who did that? Who basked in God's presence tomorrow? Because we're going to meet at night, and that's a question that I'm going to ask you. You don't have to answer, but I'm going to ask the question anyway. And the eighth characteristic of happy people is happy people are giving. I think we'd all agree it's better to give than not to give, but you have to look in your heart. What's your motive as you're giving? Because some people give to get a pat on the back, and some people give to get their name on a list, and some people give in the pure hope that someone else's life might be better. And in the Jewish history, they have a quote that says, "The reward of charity depends entirely upon the extent of the kindness in it." So when you're giving, when you're writing that check, or when you're showing up to volunteer for an activity, what's in your heart? Are you gritting your teeth as you're writing that check? Or are you hoping that someone's life might be better? Giving. There's, and the Dalai Lama says, if you want to be happy, practice compassion. If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. So we know what compassion is, being understanding others, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Let me tell you what compassion means to me. When I was living up on Long Island, there was a woman down the block. Wasn't a great friend, but we knew each other from living on the street for 20 years. She would never look me in the eye. I would be outside walking, getting some exercise. She's outside raking her leaves. I'd wave to her. She looks down. She'd be doing a power walk by my house. I'm washing my car. I'd wave to her. She looks down. So I'm saying to the audience, what's the big deal? Why can't you just give me a little friendly hello? I was put out. I was judging her. And a woman in the audience raised her hand and says, maybe she's shy. So here I am giving a talk on happiness, exhibiting a total lack of compassion. Sure, I was waving. That was a nice thing, in my friendliness. But what was I doing? I was expecting something back. And when I didn't get back what I thought she should give me, I was put out. I was angry. I was judging her. What's her problem? So that night I realized that for me, now compassion is letting people be who they want to be without needing my okay. I mean, our culture is a culture of judgment. We're judging people all the time. So non-judgment is a Christ-like prayer. Even though I've moved from the street, all the years that we lived there, she never looked at me, she never waved back. See, for me then, that became an opportunity. That was a problem. She didn't wave back, but I changed my mindset and saw it as an opportunity so I could send out love to her. Did no difference in the scheme of things, but if I felt better that I was not judging her. One time I was telling this story, and a person in the audience raised their hand and said, what's her problem? Why can't you just give me a little friendly hello? And the person said, maybe she's got a jealous husband. Good-looking guy, was waving to her. You never know what people are thinking. That would be the last thing. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, I always waved. Yeah, I always waved to her, but she didn't give me back. I was put out, yeah. I'm going to close with one more story. And all of these things, I'm talking to you, and guess what? I'm talking to me, too. Okay, I'm on my journey as well, and I need to hear these things that I'm saying to you, to myself. So, understand that. I was giving a talk at a library on the south shore of Long Island. It was about 9:30 at night, and I knew we needed some milk and juice from the supermarket. So I drove up, parked, went into the supermarket, got my little basket, went over to the dairy section, got the juice, got the milk, and went up front to the counter. And there was express line, 12 items or less. You have that in St.Charles? Yeah. I'm just kidding. I know you do. So anyway, 12 items or less. There was seniors, elderly couple, had about 25 items on the counter. So I said, 12 items or less, 25 items. So I had just given a talk. I was feeling good, so I started to send out love to those folks. I said, well, I'll be there and sitting there, in their situation one of these days, and hopefully people will, be nice to me. So I'm sitting there sending out love, and there's one kid in front of me had 2 bottles of soda, 2-liter bottles of Pepsi or something. And the clerk is scanning all the items, da-da-ding, da-da-ding, da-da-ding. And then he looks over at the elderly couple and he says, $46.64. So the elderly gentleman pulls the purse out of his pocket. How much was it? $46.64. Let's see what I have. I have 25, 50. What do you have, dear? How much was it? $46.64. How much do you have, dear? Enough already. I said, come on. If I had a $50 bill, I would have thrown it on the counter and say, go home. But I didn't have a $50 bill. So in my best stage whisper, you know what a stage whisper is? When I say something to this lady that I want this lady to hear, but I make believe I don't want her to hear it, but I say it loud enough so she does hear it. Okay? So I say to the kid in front of me, this is the express line, isn't it? And the kid, the clerk leans over and says, excuse me, sir, these folks had all their items on the counter and the manager just told me to flick on the express line light. I was dead wrong. I saw the evidence, express line, 25 items, and I opened my big mouth. So what I did, like a man, I took my basket and said, I'm going to go get some strawberries. We do stupid things. I was embarrassed. I really was embarrassed. Everybody heard me. There was nobody else in the store. But that was a learning experience, and if we can learn from these situations, now I laugh at it, but at the time I was embarrassed. So now I've made up my mind, anytime I'm at any kind of store, whether it's the farmer's market, the department store, supermarket, whatever it is, I stand in line and I shut my mouth. See, life can be so wonderful if we don't take ourselves so seriously. God wants us to be happy. God wants us to experience that joy of living in His presence. Obviously, I was not living in God's presence during that little, situation. I was thinking of me, not God's grace. So now when I'm in a line in someplace, I think of God's grace. So there's so many little things that we can do, and I've thrown out a lot of them. Just take something that resonates with you and try it. Try it to let that grace, it's always there, but realize that grace is there. And let it guide you to do the right thing, so that over the next couple of weeks, as we prepare for Easter, we're doing something positive to prepare ourselves. And hopefully those things could carry on throughout the rest of our lives, living in God's presence. It's a wonderful way to live. So we're going to close with a song. We're going to sing Mary, Did You Know? How many know this song? Oh my God. Okay, yeah. Great song. Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day walk on water did you know that your baby boy will save our sons and daughters? Did you know that your baby boy has come to make you new? This child that you delivered will soon deliver you. Mary, did you know that your baby boy will give sight to a blind man? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would calm a storm with his hand? Did you know that your baby boy has walked where angels trod? When you kiss your little baby, you kiss the face of God. The blind will see, the deaf will hear, the dead will live again. The lame will lead, the dumb will speak, the praises of the Lamb. Mary, did you know that your baby boy, Lord of all creation? Mary, did you know that your baby boy would one day rule the nations? Did you know that your baby boy is heaven's perfect lamb? The sleeping child you're holding is the great I am. Mary, did you know? Mary, did you know? Well, thank you very much, everybody. We'll be here again tomorrow at 7 o'clock. Hope to see you again. And if you want to bring someone along, we're going to talk about living a life of prayer. So thank you very much. You'll be there. Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot.